small acts of love are like a tiny seed that if you plant them in the right place, which is really where they're needed, they can grow into incredible things that can change their environment, change people's lives, can impact them.
Welcome to Agency for Change, a podcast from KidGlov that brings you the stories of change makers who are actively working to improve our communities. In every episode, we'll meet with people who are making a lasting impact in the places we call home.
Hey everyone, this is Lynn Weinman, President and Chief Strategist of KidGlov. Welcome back to another episode of the Agency for Change podcast. So it is February of 2025, and we all know that February is the month of Valentine's Day and the month of love. And so it's very appropriate that we are today talking with somebody who is all about love. Our guest is Aidan Uttinger. He is the founder of the world's greatest experiment, and they are using an entrepreneurial approach to solving the world's biggest problems by harnessing the power of love and human energy. Aidan, I can't wait to have you share your approach. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Lynn. Great to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you, and we're launching this in February, which is the month of love, which I think is so perfect to go along with what we're going to talk about. But let's just start really big picture. Could you share the story behind the world's greatest experiment?
Yeah, so basically, I've been looking for a while on I really became fascinated with this idea of how in order to solve some of the world's biggest problems, I felt like we needed to take a different approach to what's being done currently. And I'm talking predominantly in the world of nonprofits and charities, solving things like poverty.
Just little things like poverty, just solving little things like poverty, Aidan. I love it. I love it. Keep going. And I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. I kind of like, I've always sort of thought that there's got to be a better solution to what's out there. And I just, you look at the progress that we've made in terms of the global situation, and, it's arguable if we're really shifting the needle. I mean, I think we are, but it's, I've always wondered, if we're going to really solve these problems, these big ones once and for all, we kind of, we need to find a solution that can grow exponentially faster than the problem. Yeah. And I didn't see anything that was being done at the moment that really felt to me like, let's say in my lifetime, we could ever see, poverty eradicated.
Wow.
And I just became really fascinated with, could I apply an entrepreneurial mindset to this nonprofit or charity space and see if I could come up with something that would at least be my sort of throw my hat in the ring to see if we can come up with something that might be a better solution and might shift the needle faster and further than we could with the current models. So,
Aidan, it makes me think of a saying that I've heard before. Maybe you've heard of this saying: is the definition of insanity is to keep doing what you've always done, but expect a different outcome. And what I appreciate about what you're doing is you're saying, we've got some big problems in the world. Let's not just keep doing more of what we've done. Let's take a different look at this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, for a number of reasons, the time to do this is really like now. I mean, with the advancements in technology and things that are possible or looking like they're on the horizon of being possible soon, the possibilities are real. This is the time where if you can imagine something, there might very shortly, if not already, be the technology or the resource that we need to actually make something that would have seemed impossible a little while ago, be viable.
Yeah.
So it's that, and then the other side of it for me is the really interesting sort of developments in the quantum sort of side of things.
Right. Like, and some people are going to say this sounds a little woo-woo. Have you anybody mentioned that to you before when you bring up quantum?
Yeah.
Yeah. But absolutely. I tell you what, it's becoming more and more mainstream for sure.
Yeah, at a rapid rate, but some of the science that's coming out is like it is undeniable, it is
Right.
absolute, it's a very exciting sort of field that we're just starting to scratch the surface of. And I
Yeah.
think there's some really incredible possibilities in that. So our sort of a world's greatest experiment kind of merges the two together, I guess. The ability that we've got this technology, it's so accessible, we're all connected through the internet and through our electronics, and then sort of weaving that quantum sort of angle and what we're starting to discover is true, and how that works, weaving that into the equation to sort of come up with a solution that until now probably couldn't have ever really existed. So
Yeah. So tell me more. Tell us more. That's like a really big picture, but what does it really look like? What are you actually doing with the world's greatest experiment?
well, so quite simply, we're experimenting around with ways of identifying other kinds of currency that we might or that we aren't currently utilizing as well as I think we could,
Yeah.
and that quite simply is love and human energy. Like we are incredibly inefficient at harnessing love and directing it in the right way at the moment. And although that does sound a little woo-woo to a lot of people, once you start looking into the science of it, and that's really what caught me. Once I started following Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and I went to a couple of his retreats and saw some things that just would have, I mean, really, they'd just be classified as miracles, really. But
Right.
when you understand the science behind it, it's actually, it's measurable. It's a specific methodology, and it's specifically using, your vibration, your love and meditation to fix things, to fix your body, to fix your mind, to fix, you know, even things like crime rates in cities have been shown to be able to be dropped by
Wow.
groups of people sending love to that particular city.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very interesting space. Essentially, what we do is we go into the world's poorest communities where we teach them how to meditate and send love, and we get them to direct that love back to our donors. So we're a non-profit model, but we
Yeah.
wanted to create like a circular economy, something that could make it a bit more exciting for not just the people that are donating, but also for the people who are lifted out of poverty. What if we can teach them a skill like meditation, which
Right.
is got tons of data backing up how good this is for your health, for your community, for your state of mind. There's just so many things that it's been shown to do. I was like, what if we could teach them this, so it's teaching them something which is going to benefit them, but we direct that love that they're generating back to the donors, and the donors get to contribute and be part of a great organization, but they get to have all this love coming back to them. And I thought it'd be really interesting to see what happens in those donors' lives and the businesses that get involved with us. Can we measurably see, an improvement in their lives or businesses when they're receiving massive amounts of love that we track, by the way? So it's not just,
Wow.
we track it through technology. I thought that could be a super interesting way to find out, one, the power of love, but two, to create an economy for these people in poverty to be able to take care of themselves and the people that they love, because they're actually they're incentivized every time they complete a love meditation. They get like a love currency through our technology platform, which essentially functions just like cash. They can purchase food or clean water, or we have kids in Pakistan at the moment at the world's first love farm school
I
that
love it.
pay for their education. We're sending love every morning before class. So yeah, it's just a new out of the box approach to a nonprofit to helping the world be a better place, raise the vibration, but in a way that sort of everybody gets a touch point of love along the way, which I think is exciting.
Aidan, it's so fascinating. I have to admit, when I first heard of you and was introduced to the concept, as a marketing person, I was really intrigued. I was like, well, what is this world's greatest experiment? What's it all about? And the idea that you're harnessing love and human energy as a currency to solve the world's greatest problems. I mean, that is so fascinating. So you mentioned the school in Pakistan. Can you tell us more? Like, how many kids and how is this working and what are you finding?
Yeah, so we launched this. We're only about 7 months into the world's greatest
So
experiment.
you're brand new. The
We're
world's greatest
very
experiment is still brand new.
very
Yeah.
much brand new. But one of the first projects that we've put in place is the Love Farm schools, right? And we're basically in this community in Lahore, actually, the main city in Pakistan. We have currently 50 children who are full-time. And these children come from really, really poor families. Like some of the kids have already had full-time jobs before this came in at ages 6 and 7.
Wow.
Things like collecting rubbish in junkyards and recycling plastic from the streets and all this kind of stuff. And, they're really smart kids, and their parents and the kids themselves want nothing more than to get educated, than to learn and
to have a chance
to build a better future for themselves. And they have dreams just like every kid of being a doctor or a lawyer or an entrepreneur. And they just don't have any ability to be able to afford to go to school. The parents are that poor, they often don't even get any, if they're lucky, they'll get a meal a day.
Wow.
So our model goes into this community, and we've become really famous in this community now. Like, we have so many parents that want their kids to come to the Love Farm.
I can't imagine, right?
It's unbelievable. But what's really, really cool, and it's the only model I've seen like it anywhere, is that I guess what separates us is that now what's happening is these kids whose families can't afford to put them to school, who can't even afford to feed them, the kids are able to take their own future into their own hands. So what we say to them is we know a way that you can pay for your school, your education, by learning to harness the energy of love in your heart and direct it out to people that want to support you in exchange for the love, right? And it's this experiment. And so now these kids who are as young as our youngest kid is just about to turn 6.
That's pretty young. That's pretty young to understand all of this, right?
It really is. Yeah, we've got, of the 50 kids, they're between 6 and 14. And at first, I really wasn't sure if a 6-year-old was just too young, because they have to they meditate for an hour every morning. They send love for an hour.
It's a long time to sit still. I'm not sure. I meditate, but like 15 minutes is kind of my limit, right? Like
yeah.
So an hour, that's intense.
Yeah, well, I really didn't think that it was going to be a good idea. My idea was initially, I think we should probably start with kids at least at 10, 11, 12. But there was a really, really great need in this community. And some of the parents, when they found out about what the school we were opening, came in, they were just so emotional and they just were adamant that they needed this opportunity. So we thought we'd give it a try with a couple of them. And I'll tell you, within a week, like not even, these kids who understood that they now had this opportunity to not only get educated, because they get all their education, their uniform paid for. We have a cook that comes in and we feed them twice a day, so they get 2 square meals.
Yeah, that's big.
The kids love it. They feel like they're in control of their life. And even at kids as young as 6 and 7, we've got some footage of them talking about their mental health. Like they're understanding this because they really understand why they're doing it. And what's interesting is, I can't help but think if I think back to my childhood, if someone had talked about this, it would be very much ridiculed.
Right.
But they didn't, the kids in these areas, they didn't even once say, oh, well, how would that work? Or why would that work? Or who would pay for love? They were like, oh yeah, we've seen you guys need it, a lot. That was my response. We interviewed people in Nepal and also in Pakistan, and not one person brought up, why this wouldn't work, which would be in the West.
Nobody said this sounds woo-woo to us.
No,
we're not
nothing,
sure. Nobody asked that. Yeah.
No, they totally got it, and they really understood how it would benefit them and also the people, the donors, they're getting the love. And, they really appreciate it because it's like finally someone sees that we are worth something. Like we have something. We might not have money, but you give us an opportunity
Oh,
to look
wow.
after our futures and secure our future. Like, we will send you love, and we will mean it when we send it to you. And that's become really obvious.
Wow.
So
You just said something there that really, like, I think is very touching. And it is giving kids who are in maybe some of the most difficult situations, taking them to the point where they're like, we are worth something. We are doing something, not just for ourselves, but for others. Aidan, I think
yeah.
that's really beautiful. So all right, you have 50 kids in school. I bet,
Mhm.
I bet you have a waiting list.
Oh, we have, like, every week the main teacher. We have three teachers there, and the
Yeah.
the teacher that runs the school is like, Aidan, like, we could take 200 kids tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
community, they all want their kids to go there, and it's creating this really it's creating this beautiful energy in the community, because they're really
Right.
proud. They're really proud of the fact that this is the first of its kind, and they really understand too that if they take this seriously and they really put their heart into it, they believe it will work. Just like I know in my heart it will work, and that other kids will get the opportunity as we get to show the world how this model works, and how it's helping in ways that I guess hasn't charities haven't been able to do this before, because it's
Right.
taking a totally different approach.
It's a very
Um,
different concept. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, they understand that they've got an important responsibility, because they're the first foundational love farm school, the thing that shows the world that this thing can work. And so, they're already scoring above average. We haven't got to the point
Wow.
where we're teaching, where we do the testing versus the national average yet. But we're really optimistic based on what we're seeing, that their grades are going to be through the roof compared with kids that don't meditate and said
Wow.
love for an hour in the school. And
Yeah.
remember, these come from illiterate families and things too. So
Right. Right. It's not
already,
like they're getting extra help at home.
no, they're seriously coming from if you look at it even, they're not on a level footing, even when they come to the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So if we can start to show that state of gratitude and love and meditation for an hour before school every day can be, something that will really help them learn better, get better grades, become better
Yeah.
students, better
Yeah.
better citizens. That's really powerful stuff to be able to see, right? If we can show that, and I think that's how we can, that's I'm excited about this as a model that we can expand out all over the world to countries where this is needed.
That's amazing. So, Aidan, you got 50 kids in the school. They're doing really well. They're feeling great, making a difference. They're getting 2 squares a day in addition to an
Mhm.
education, in addition to mental health. You got 200 or more on a waiting list. I know our listeners are very socially conscious. They want to help. How do we help you get more of these kids in school?
Well, I think one thing I should just touch on quickly, which I haven't clearly articulated yet, is that the world's greatest experiment is obviously a new model for helping people in this situation. But what we're actually doing is we're getting our donors together, the donors that contribute a monthly amount, whether it's an individual, you can join our experiment as an individual, or you can join as a business.
Yeah.
And and essentially everyone in the experiment is the recipient of all the love from all the love farms,
Yeah.
from all the kids. We have a community in the Philippines where we get about 200 families, about 1,000 people who pay for their clean water every month with
Oh,
love.
through love. So you have the school plus you're doing a water source in the Philippines.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, and
Okay.
we have another love farm that wants to open in India, which will be the next place as well.
Okay.
Um, but the way that this works is when we get people to join our experiment, either as an individual or a business, they get to be the first businesses or individuals to stream love. Like, they'll have love meditated on them every day for hours from all around the world. And the more people we get in the experiments means the more communities like this, the more schools, the more students, the more people we can help with water, with food, with relief, the more love is coming to the donors. So we're very much at the beginning of getting this flywheel going, where we've got early adopters who have gone, I like this model, I like what this is doing. I don't necessarily know what the love's going to do, but I'm contributing just like I would to any other nonprofit. It's to a great
Right.
cause, and I get this little added bonus of this stream of love coming to me a
Right.
little bit. Like I'm interested to see what happens. So I think that's just important to let the listeners know that by supporting us, what you're actually doing is you're actually signing yourself up to be the first humans in history to stream love every day.
Yeah.
And that's where we're hoping to see the benefits, is not just in these communities, but with the donors and the businesses that contribute.
Aidan, I'm excited to say KidGlov is coming on board as a donor, and we're really excited. But the same thing, I have no idea what's going to come of this, but it's got to be good, right? Like it's got to be good. How could you harness love and human energy and not have that be a fantastic situation, right?
Yeah, it can only be a good thing. And, where we want to get it to is we track all the love too. So as we get a bit better established, we have a platform which is almost ready, which will allow people in the experiment to actually see every day all the love, where it's coming from, how much love is coming from Philippines, from Nepal, from wherever it is. And they'll be able to read about where the loves come from, see things happening in the community, get to sort of know the people, the community,
Yeah.
and get to see firsthand some of the differences that they're making by contributing, by being part of this experiment. So it's really got a win for everybody. There's a win for
Right.
you if you're donating, and you get all this love. Well, who knows what's going to
Who
happen? And
knows, right?
yeah,
I see a future for you in people gifting love to their friends and family, right? This year for Christmas, I'm
yeah,
gifting you love, right? Like, could be kind
absolutely.
of a cool and fun thing to do, Aidan.
I
I
mean,
love it. Yeah.
Valentine's Day coming up, pretty great. For our individual experiment, we get people that they commit for a year, because we have to be able to sign up the kids, the teachers,
Yeah.
commit
You
to the
can't just
families.
do it sporadically, right?
Yeah. But we do $100 a month, and that's a pretty great present for your loved one on Valentine's Day, is giving
I
them an
love it.
entire year of love streaming to them, and at the same time, you're educating kids and feeding and giving clean water to families that need it. It's really cool. So I see gifting has a big part in the future too.
Fantastic. Aidan, as long as we're talking about this, let's tell people how they can find you. What is your web address where they can check this out?
Yeah, so it's just the world's greatest experiment.com.
Very good. The world's greatest experiment.com. And we'll get that in the show notes for everybody too. So they can just go on to the KidGlov website and click right on that link if they want to.
Yeah, and just to give a little context too, for people that might have a company or a brand, or be curious about what we're talking about, is that the idea with businesses is we want to create a platform where businesses who contribute can actually get their products, services, and goods streaming love, or maybe it's sending love to their customers or their clients. They set the intention, and now for the first time in history, your clients would be able to actually scan a code on your packaging or on your website, which would link through to your page on the world's greatest experiment, showing your customers and clients all the love that's in your product or service, or that's streaming to them for being a customer of yours. So that
Yeah.
just gives a little idea about how we're incorporating into the business world. What about companies that actually want to infuse love into their products or services? This is like the first way that I'm aware of ever for a company to do that in a way that's measurable, quantifiable, and I believe will help form really strong, long-lasting, loyal customer base sort of relationships with your clients as well, because it's something that a lot of people say they put love into what they do, but this is a way that you can
You can actually do
do
it,
it.
right?
Yeah, and prove it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Aidan, all right, I have to ask you this. How does someone like you with this entrepreneurial background, this tech background, how do you get to this place? Like how did you get to the place where you woke up one day and said, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, it's been a journey, and I don't know that there's one single moment, but I will tell you the genesis of the idea. But I'd sort of in hindsight, now I can look back and see that it was really a lot of little things over a long period of time, perfectly orchestrated to get me to this point. But I ran, I ran away as a kid. I left New Zealand, where I'm originally from, as a teenager. And I ended up finding myself, after a little bit of trouble and some wrong turns, an illegal alien in the Philippines.
Oh,
Basically, I had spun a globe, my finger on it, and decided I was just going to go there and try and start a new
wow.
life. And as an illegal alien there, without a visa or anything, I got taken in by a Filipino family who essentially, saved my life. I feel like they gave me family, love, food, a roof over my head, and they never wanted anything for it. But one day I asked my Filipino dad how I could ever repay him for saving my life. And he told me that when I'm in a position to pay it forward to somebody to do the same thing,
Mm.
give them some love, that he would consider that debt repaid. And when I thought about that simple request, it was amazing, because I realized that would carry on. That one act of love that he gave to me, if I passed it down and the next person passed it down, it would carry on for eternity. And I just was fascinated by that simple concept of how love as an energy can just carry on. And I made a promise to myself in that moment, that's over 25 years ago, that I was going to
Wow.
find a way to pay back or pay forward so much love, because just doing that for one person that wouldn't show my Filipino dad the gravity of how much love I felt. Like,
Right.
it would, I know it'd be beautiful, but I was like, I want to show him something bigger. So I sort of planted that seed. I have to come up with an idea that could really show them that by doing that one act of love for me, like, the world can be different because of that one
Wow.
act, and to show that to the world too, because I think that's a really powerful lesson, right? If we can all pay a little bit of love forward to somebody that needs it, we can start to show, we can start to change the world. And because of technology and what we're building, you can see it. Like, we
Wow.
can have the record of it, how much love was sent, what happened, how it affected the world. And that's exciting for me, because we can quantifiably, tangibly show what love is doing, rather than it being this ethereal thing that we can't touch or
Hmm.
see.
Fantastic. So I love the ripple effect of that, right? I mean, a very kind and generous act from your Filipino family, a very wise conversation with your Filipino dad, you then being inspired, and now this, like, going across the world. I mean, that is not just a ripple effect, it's kind of a tidal wave, Aidan. And I know tidal waves aren't always positive, right? But it's kind of a tidal wave of love there, right? Which that can't be a bad thing, can it?
That's exactly how I refer to it with my friends. Is it's
Really?
a tidal wave of love, and I don't. There's a book that is called Power versus Force. I don't know if you've read it.
I
David,
haven't.
David
But I'm a
Hawkins.
reader, so I'm putting it on the list right now. Power versus force.
Yeah, and he studies the energy that certain words and frequencies and emotions have,
Mm.
and you've you know I guess in most things in life, to get to a tipping point, you sort of get to this 51%, right? And you sort of you get over the hump. But what he discovered with love is that the frequency of love is so many orders of magnitude higher than, say, frequency of guilt and shame, which are the two lowest vibrations,
Hmm.
that one person vibrating in a state of love can offset about 120,000 people in a state of guilt and shame. So
Wow.
just on a pure energetics, you start to understand that for these 50 kids in this school in Pakistan, those 50 kids meditating for that hour every day are offsetting, 7 million, 8 million people
Wow.
who are in guilt and shame. So,
Yeah.
so that when you see the state of the world sometimes and you go, man, it seems like, is this just too crazy of an idea? It's like when you understand the science once again, you're like, no, if we can get 1%, less than that, but if we can get 1% of
Yeah.
the world to get into this state of love, once a day, that would be enough to offset to literally create a tidal wave of love that you can't, if you get in the way, you just get swept up in it. Now it's too strong.
I love
So
it. I got to
yeah.
stop saying that. I keep saying that on this podcast. I've noticed I have said I love it like at least a dozen times. And I even wrote it down here. Stop saying that. But it's hard. It's hard not to, because I do feel like a lot of folks are in a state of distress, a state of, guilt and shame, and a lot of it's just like in our heads. And if what you're doing can help people overcome that, I think that's really, really a beautiful thing. So, Aidan, I'd love to ask you, like, what's on the horizon? What's next? You said, hey, maybe the next project is in India. Like, how big does your dream go for this project?
Well, like I really believe that we can and should have love as our currency of the future, at least
Yeah.
our currency, right? And I believe that if we have enough brave people, enough people that can see what we're doing, enough people that join this experiment and help us get that flywheel going, I really believe that we'll, like you said, create this tidal wave of love that will really start to show. I think we can have schools all over the world, entire communities where have come from extreme poverty who are able to take care of themselves, their communities, the kids, everyone they love by sending love every day, creating a marketplace for love, right? Where we can show the world that it's really valuable, show companies if they infuse love in, they become more profitable. They have lower staff turnover. They have better relationships with their customers. If we can start to prove that, then we can create this shift where businesses are like, well, or even consumers start demanding it. If I'm going to buy food, I want food from a
Yeah,
company that's streaming love to it because I know
absolutely.
it's better for me, So I think we can create something here that can totally grow exponentially faster than the problem. If every
So
food
now,
company on the planet
was
started
streaming
with
love.
streaming love to it, because you simply had to, when you realize that everyone who was streaming love was that much better,
Yeah.
then we automatically have enough to take care of everyone that's in need, that everyone that's in poverty, plus a lot more. So it's really, I see the sky as the limit, but I also, it's not, I can't do it alone. It's like,
Right.
we have to have these other people that believe this. And I know that they're out there
Right.
that aren't afraid to be the first companies to come in and actively say to their clients, look, we're streaming love to, your favorite wine or your water or your muesli bars or your
Yeah.
fruit and vegetables and Whole Foods is streaming love now, And I think when enough, when some people start having, saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'll be the first in history to stream love to our company,"
Right.
I think we'll start a movement, and that movement could be extremely impactful.
I want to drive in a car that's powered by love and fly on an airplane that's protected by love. And right, like put my grandkids in a car seat that's powered by love, right? All of those things sound
Absolutely.
pretty
Yeah.
wonderful. But I have to admit, you must have to get into some interesting conversations, right? Like there are people that don't believe Bitcoin is real, and you're talking about harnessing love and energy as a currency. I mean, what do you say to the people who question it?
Well, I mean, look, one, there's lots of science out there. There's lots of research out there.
Yeah.
But two, like we're already seeing it. It already works. I mean, when
Yeah.
you see the look of the face of these kids, these parents in Pakistan breaking down, crying as we
Mm,
interviewing them on how this has impacted them, their lives, because they want, just like anybody, their kids to have an opportunity, and this is giving them an opportunity. It's already working. Like we might
hmm
not be able to say, here's this incredible miracle that's happened for a donor yet, and it's attributed to love, because we haven't got there yet. But I can tell you that every day for these kids, they're experiencing a miracle.
Yeah.
This community in the Philippines that hasn't had clean water, something as simple as now all of a sudden then they're meditating twice. Each family meditates twice a month for an hour, and that pays for their clean water for the month.
Mm,
So these 2,000 people odd in this community, they're experiencing this love as a miracle already, And what's really cool with it is it's not a charity anymore.
yeah.
It's not like
Because they're returning the currency. They're paying
they're
for it.
exactly, and that's really incredible because they value it more. we're already seeing that, they feel valued. They're like, hey, we don't have money, we didn't have an education, but if you can teach us to do something that's valuable, we know our love has got a value. And it's changing the poverty mindset. It's literally helping them break free of the poverty mindset. I can see it already with the kids, and we're, only 4 months or so in, 4 or 5 months into the school.
Right.
So yeah, it's exciting. I think we're going to see some really incredible stuff, as time progresses with this.
Aidan, I have to ask you, do you have any, I mean, you've kind of alluded to some big picture stories, but do you have any favorite stories that have happened in these first few months?
I mean, it's to give you an idea, at the moment we have 3 companies, and we've gotten maybe 30 or 40 people in the experiment. So I mean, we are really new. We haven't in marketing. As you know, we're sort of bootstrapping this thing. And a miracle to me is that these, this, just from that small amount of people that have gone, yeah, I'll be part of this experiment. Just from that small group, there's 2,000 people getting fresh water in the Philippines. There's 50 kids who, each of those kids has brothers and sisters. They all have a parent or parents. So there's already probably 2,000 people that are somehow affected by the generosity of just 3 companies and a handful of individuals, because your money goes so much further in some of these places, right?
Absolutely.
That's a miracle to me. Like, I can't believe that we have a school in Pakistan, and we've been able to do that with just these people saying, we'll be part of this experiment. So for me, that's been it so far, and seeing the looks on the faces of the kids and the community and stuff. But it's beautiful. It's also frustrating in a way, because I can see where this could go. And I want to find the tribe, the people out there that understand what we're doing and want to be part of it, because it's been a lonely journey to get it to this point. It gets better every day as more people hear about it and support and come into this sort of circle. But I can really see us building just this phenomenal community of heart-led people around the world who are all streaming love into their lives and all, doing their bit to help make the world a better place. And I have no doubt that the miracles and the evidence, if you like, will come. But as far as I'm aware, that as far as I'm concerned, the evidence is already there. I'm already feeling it. If I have a bad day, I just think about all these kids that, if I hadn't have put this crazy idea together, their lives already changed. And who knows, maybe one of them will grow up to be the prime minister one day. Who knows? You just never know. But what I do know is that from these small acts of love, like the seed can grow into something, because if it wasn't for that thing that happened to me 25 years ago, this project wouldn't exist. So I may not live to see it. I may not ever know the true effect of it, but I know that it's doing something,
Absolutely. Well, Aidan, I hope that this podcast and our listeners from the Agency for Change, I'm happy to shine a light on the experiment and the work that you're doing. And I hate to say it, but our time is coming to an end, because I feel like I could just keep talking to you for another hour. But I do want to ask you my favorite question, because you're kind of an inspiring person who's doing really inspiring work. And one of the questions I've asked on every single episode of this podcast is, can you give us an Aidan Uttinger original quote?
Oh man, I'm trying to think of. You've put me on the spot with this. There's a few things that I've come up with over the time, which I can't quite recall what they are. But I don't know. I guess the one nugget that I just want to remind people of. So I don't think it's like a quote or saying, but we touched on it already. Is just like, love is like a seed, right? Like, small acts of love are like a tiny seed that, if you plant them in the right place, which is really where they're needed, they can grow into incredible things that can change their environment, change people's lives, can impact them. And I just would encourage people to to always think about that, because we sometimes don't think that something as simple as just smiling to a stranger or something, but, could make a difference. But that literally could be the seed that they needed at that moment, which can change the life of their spouse and their kids and the future for them. And so I know that's not really a quote, and it's a lot too long to write down, but just be that awareness of that, because I've seen it firsthand in my life, and I see it, with what we're doing. And I think if people could understand that sometimes it's these small things, like the biggest, strongest things come from these tiny little seeds, and so, I always think of love like that, and try and plant as many of those seeds as I can,
Yeah, I think we're lucky that you're out there planting those seeds, Aidan. Aidan, I want to wrap up with one last question here, because as we end this great conversation, what would you say is the most important thing you would like our listeners to remember about the work that you're doing?
I would love for everyone listening, if it resonates, to reach out. We're small enough now. We'd love to just have you in the community, even if you're not a donor, I want people to be aware of what we're doing, because I know that the power is in the numbers. And as we start to get more and more people thinking this way and just following along, because they're going to see miracles, they're going to see things if they just follow what we're doing. And I think that that's going to inspire people. It's just in the early stages right now, but I just encourage you to keep an ear to the ground on what we're doing. And if you come across a company or someone that says they put love in their product, tell them about the world's greatest experiment. Or just, I find that this is the kind of thing that sticks in people's head. Yeah. If you've got a certain level of consciousness and you think about this kind of thing, and you sometimes get overwhelmed with, how we can make the world better, when sometimes it seems like with what's going on, it's just so crazy. It's like, it's nice to know there's something out there that could be a solution for it. So just Aidan, get in touch.
I promised myself I wasn't going to say the word love one more time, but I love what you're doing. And I fully believe that the world needs more people like you, more projects like the world's greatest experiment. I really encourage people to check it out. Just thank you for taking time to share with us today.
Well, thank you. And thanks to KidGlov too, for being the fourth company on the whole planet to infuse love into their work and their customers and their clients, because we're so happy to have you part of it and helping us on our journey.
Aidan, we like to say you can't spell KidGlov without love. So I think this is a perfect match.
I love it. Well, there you go. Now I'm saying it.
Now you're saying it. All right. Thanks so much, Aidan.
We hope you enjoyed today's Agency for Change podcast. To hear all our interviews with those who are making a positive change in our communities, or to nominate a changemaker you'd love to hear from, visit KidGlov.com at KIDGLOV.com to get in touch. As always, if you like what you've heard today, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.